Welcome to the Mighty Rip Podcast, hosted by Dave DeBa. As always, the Mighty Rip Podcast is coming to you live from the super plush Mighty Rip Broadcast Studios in the heart of Silicon Valley. Now, to the host that can't stop ripping on players, coaches, and bad front office management, Dave DeBa.
Coming up on the Mighty Rip Pod, we take a deep dive look at your National Basketball Association, which has officially made its announcement that it's returning on July 31st with 22 teams with a shot at a chip. Plus, I will give you my thoughts and opinions on Drew Brees' comments a little bit earlier in the week. All of that, and trust me, a whole lot more coming up on the Mighty Rip Pod today. But we begin with the National Basketball Association as the commissioner who is most likely to be voted to look like an alien. Adam Silver has officially made the big announcement, and he got Fred Durst agreeance from the majority of the National Basketball Association teams, with one team deciding to vote against the approval of this particular plan. Now, that one team I'm going to touch on in just a little bit, and I guarantee I'm going to rip on the Portland Trail Blazers for a wide variety of reasons. But before we get into that, I thought it was important just to take a step back and take a look at what the NBA is actually going to do. Now, this has been, as we all know, a very trying time for our country. I'm going to touch on what happened with George Floyd in a little bit when we catch up on the latest from the wonderful or less than wonderful world of Drew Brees. That being said, the National Basketball Association will return on July 31st. There will be 22 teams. That's right, 22 teams that are going to be invited to spread some pixie dust in Disney World. There's going to be something like 3 or 4 courts. In between each game, there'll be a 4-hour delay. So you might have a game that ends at 2 p.m., and the next game cannot start until 6 p.m. because of the cleaning of the court and a bunch of other things that need to be done to ensure player safety, which of course is one of the main priorities in sort of putting together this National Basketball Association bubble city. Now, I was really hoping that Adam Silver and the rest of the National Basketball Association were going to do away with the Western Conference and the Eastern Conference in the playoffs. They, however, decided to not do that. The Western Conference and the Eastern Conference will remain intact, at least for one more year. The play-in scenarios. So, as you all know, 16 teams will be in the NBA playoffs. And what they've basically done is they've said, if a team is within 4 games of the ace seed, they'll have a chance to actually play into the playoffs. Now, the 9th seed will not have to just beat the ace seed once, but literally have to beat the ace seed twice in order to get beat by either the Milwaukee Bucks or the Los Angeles Lakers in the first round of the National Basketball Association playoffs. So that is how they've structured everything in the NBA. Now, basically what this does is it pushes, and I didn't say this, but there's going to be 8 regular season games for each team. And then seedings will, of course, be based on overall records, which is the right way to do it. That being said, the NBA also has, television issues and constraints and things that they have to deal with from a broadcast perspective in order to really sort of make this work. I mean, there's going to be at times where they're going to be going head to head with the National Football League preseason playoff games and even some of the regular season games along the way. So scheduling will be a very important thing. The NBA Finals are scheduled to wrap up on October 12th. That would be Game 7 of your National Basketball Association Finals, with the draft being held on October 15th and free agency literally being open to free agents starting on October 18th, with a start of the next National Basketball Association on December 1st. Now, there were a lot of people out there that were doing something with Santa Claus and wishing that the National Basketball Association would actually return on Christmas Day. But the NBA is too smart for that. They know that their teams are bad, are really bad at the beginning of the season, and that they would need some time to get those guys ramped up. And by Christmas Day, there should be some at least decent and quality basketball available for you. The big question is, will it also still be at Disney World? Okay, so that is what's happening in the National Basketball Association. Just a couple other just sort of quick thoughts here. Now, 29 teams voted yes on this. One team decided to vote against it, and it was the Portland Trailblazers. Now, I want to put the Portland Trailblazers season in perspective. In case you don't know, they are currently 2.5 games out of the ace seed. And they wanted to see a different type of playoff format put into place for a wide variety of reasons. Look, the first thing I want to say is Portland is damn lucky that they even have a chance. In fact, New Orleans, and of course the NBA is doing this for the Zion effect, Sacramento and San Antonio and Phoenix, and do I dare bring up the Charlotte Hornets? Do I dare mention the Charlotte Hornets? Well, no, because they didn't make it, but the Washington Wizards did. John Wall. So it's just crazy to think that Portland should be complaining about anything. Any of these bubble teams should be absolutely thrilled that they actually have a chance at a chip. now, an actual legitimate chance at a chip, well, that's a completely different thing. But at least they have a chance, as they used to say in the old days of the National Basketball Association, they have a chance at least receiving another paycheck. Which in this era of 40 million people being unemployed, reduced salaries for the players in the National Basketball Association. And trust me, I mean, there are, probably about 40%, maybe 50% of the National Basketball Association. These guys aren't rich. They make more money than you and I do in a season, but they don't necessarily make more money over a long run. So these guys do need these paychecks. And Portland should be very happy that they're even being allowed to even have a chance at this. I mean, when you really think about the coronavirus and you really think about what's going on in the world today, it would have been so easy for Adam Silver and the rest of the 29 teams to have voted. I know there's 30. For the rest of the 29 teams to have simply voted to allow the playoffs to start with just a couple of regular season games prior to it. Would have been so freaking easy for Adam Silver, the Aliens commissioner, to have done that. I'm just saying. I mean, like, if Adam Silver just paints his face green for Halloween, like, he's definitely an alien. I'm just saying it. Anyways, so Portland's just being absolutely ridiculous. They should just be happy, absolutely happy that they're in the playoffs. Like, what I personally really want to see, I mean, like, I don't have anything at all. I got nothing against Memphis. I mean, they've got some really great young talent on that team. But wouldn't it be great wouldn't it be great to see Zion actually have a chance at playing LeBron in the first round of the COVID-19/20 National Basketball Association playoffs. All right. So as we all know, lots going on in the world, lots of protests all over the place. And of course, as you all know, I'm absolutely in favor of all of the protests. I have, attempted at times to steer clear of politics on this show, but I do see politics in occasionally when necessary, because it's my job, it's my duty to at least paint a picture when politics go awry. Now, we all saw that absolutely ridiculous photo op that President Trump went ahead and rolled out. And just trust me, like within 3 weeks, you're going to see that picture of him holding the Bible that he didn't even open. I even think maybe there was just blank pages in that Bible. Do we even have confirmation that there was actual written words on the Bible that he held in front of the church that he went ahead and used, or at least threatened military force to move people out of the way so that he could stand there and we could actually see that show up on our televisions in an upcoming commercial or stream, wherever you get your coverage from? So absolutely ridiculous. The way he's handled all of this stuff has been horrific and has basically, if you will, showed a complete lack of leadership in a wide variety of ways. Now, I do have, and I told this to one of my kids the other day, as we took as I took my 4-month-old puppy Rocky out to his very first protest. I mean, there's literally a protest in my home office here in Northern California, like about 100 yards away from my backyard. So I took Rocky over to the protest, and we hung out there for a little while. And, there was all sorts of chants going on. And it was good to see the kind of support, because, something's really got to change. I mean, like, when you go back in history, and I am from Minnesota, but I grew up in Southern California, and I was there for all of the Rodney King stuff. And it was definitely the racism, and at times, I even called it terrorism against Americans by the police departments in Los Angeles. I mean, that's what it was like in the 80s in LA and in the 90s. And you seem to think that, things have sort of improved over the years to some degree. But, countless times after times, we see all of these things happen to the Black community, and which is just appalling. I mean, like, how could you not watch that George Floyd video and be absolutely appalled? How could you, I'll just say this, in any way support a flag or sing a national anthem like the next day after seeing what a police officer did to George Floyd? And we'll get into the Drew Brees thing here in a second. So I just think it's, it's absolutely ridiculous. And so what I said to my daughter is, I said, look, what is the solution? I'm glad we're out here protesting, and I'm glad you're doing it through with social distancing and all those things. But what is it? What is the actual solution? And so, she thought about it, and then she sort of came back to me and said, and she's 16, by the way. So she came back to me and said, well, what do you think the solution is? And I said, well, I said, I don't think you can trust. I don't think you, and in fact, it's not even I don't think. I know you cannot trust the local police departments to police themselves when it comes to policies. Clearly, a national federal policy of some sort is going to need to put into place that specifically talks about social injustice and how police officers can act and treat people. That is, now you read into that, that is the bottom line. There needs to be a federal level policy. Now I saw, and then earlier today, I saw Stephen A. Smith on ESPN say something very similar, and Stephen A., who's not always right, was absolutely right about this thing, because it's not just about protesting. It's not just about going out there and peacefully protesting, but it's about actually coming up with solutions. And the big problem is that nobody's ever actually come up with a solution. And so I agree with Stephen A. on this, that a federal program of some sort needs to be put into place. I mean, there's nothing funny about any of this stuff at all. It literally needs to happen. It's not to say that there aren't really good police departments out there that are perfectly capable of running their own programs and policing themselves in an appropriate way as to protect all of their citizens and treat them all equally. There's nothing out there that says a local police department can't go do that tomorrow, which is what they all should be doing right now. Literally every police department, county, and sheriff's department in this country should immediately be re-examining their policies and how they treat people. I mean, it's that simple, and it needs to be done. I mean, like, we have to figure out how to move past this racism. Without a national policy on this, I'm going to say this. I'm sure there's a lot of really good people out there who are going to make a difference in their local city governments and in their local police departments, and there will be cleanup. There will be cleanup. But will there be enough cleanup that we don't have the same sort of thing happen 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, 8 years, or 10 years from now without a national policy? And I think the answer to that is no. I think there absolutely will be flare-ups, and we might be sitting here in the same place that we are today because we didn't act on it. So we got to make sure that we act in the appropriate way. Yeah, voting is important, but come on. There literally needs to be a national policy on this, which takes me to Drew Brees. Now, it's important to note, I did a blog about Drew Brees yesterday on Mighty.Rip, and the title of the blog, I got to read this for you. It's Does Drew Brees Not Watch TV? Because Aaron Rodgers and LeBron James clearly do. It's absolutely obvious that Aaron Rodgers. Now, of course, I'm joking, and we know that Drew Brees probably has a television, he probably has a smartphone, and probably has a big screen TV larger than the one that I currently have sitting in my family room. I'm jealous, Drew. But Drew Brees did his whole thing where he came out yesterday and made a statement that was basically, and the best way to put this, and we're not going to get into reading the whole statement because at this point you've all heard it and you've all read it. And Drew Brees basically took a question and didn't answer that question the correct way and came out and basically said, I will never, I guess I'm going to read it. I will never agree with anybody disrespecting the flag of the United States of America or our country. And he said this in an interview with Yahoo Finance. Now, I think I watched this at least 20 times before I wrote the blog because I was actually trying to figure out, was he being malicious? Did he show up at the interview ready to preach his preacher line? Or was this something just sort of off the cuff and he sort of got positioned into a corner and he just went out with what he knows what he believes he knows. So a couple things. One, I don't think he intentionally wanted to be malicious. I don't think he knew what was right from wrong in this situation. That is my opinion of Drew Brees in this case. Look, I think Drew's been a great model citizen in the National Football League for the most part. He did a tremendous job with the in New Orleans after Katrina, and has continued to be sort of a beacon, a pillar, if you will, of strength in the city and surrounding areas in New Orleans. Drew Brees is one of the most beloved people in that area of the country. So for him to come out with this sort of tone-deaf statement that he made yesterday, which is like something like he rehearsed as if he was going on Fox News or something. But he was on Yahoo Finance. When was the last time, by the way, Yahoo Finance actually broke anything? In fact, like nobody even knows who the interview person was at Yahoo Finance. Like nobody's giving that guy any credit for, I guess, baiting Drew Brees out, even though he didn't really bait him. Drew could have gone in 18 different directions with his answer, which would have been way better than the one he actually gave. Tone deaf is the best way to describe Drew Brees' response. He literally didn't understand the situation. Now, this is my opinion. My opinion is he believes in the flag the way he believes in it, and he believes in the anthem the way he believes in it, because of his family history and all those things. I do want to point out that 4 years ago, when all the Colin Kaepernick stuff hit, Drew Brees basically made the same statement. And here we are 4 years later, and Drew Brees is still saying the same thing. Meanwhile, literally, like millions of people are protesting across this country because of George Floyd's death, because of the way he was treated by the police department. Like, who wants to salute a flag after seeing that? Who is proud of their country after seeing that? I mean, I'm just saying. It's not to say that, 3 months from now, we might, want to salute the flag and sing the national anthem and be more patriotic. But at this very moment in time, even bringing that kind of crap up, that right-wing political crap up, is just plain tone deaf. And that is exactly what I believe is wrong with Drew Brees' statement. Now, Drew Brees came out earlier today. It should be noted. He came out earlier today and apologized for his statement, and wrote a really nice piece about it. I just really don't think he understood what he was saying and why what he was saying was going to have an impact. Basically, any other time in history for Drew Brees to say what he's saying would have been fine, but not in this particular situation. Now, I still believe that Drew Brees absolutely has a right to say whatever he wants to say. I mean, if they're going to allow Laura Ingraham to bring up on Fox News last night, Laura Ingraham to bring back her famous shut up and dribble comment as she ripped on KD and LeBron James once again for having some political beliefs. It is absolutely ridiculous what Laura Ingraham did with her whole shut up and dribble thing. I'm not going to get into any more of that other than to say everybody deserves the right to say what they want. In the way Drew Brees, the way he said what he wanted to say, we as a society are then allowed to attempt to correct him, Laura, which is what Malcolm Jenkins, LeBron James, Aaron Rodgers, and countless other professional athletes did yesterday, which led to a learning moment, if you will, an education moment for Drew Brees, who's been in the National Football League for 19 years, I mind you. Drew Brees knows about the struggles of players in the National Football League in their personal lives. He's been in the National Football League for 19 years. He just didn't understand the depth of what was going on and how his statement would be taken in such a bizarre way. Or not in a bizarre way, but in such a bad way. Such an absolutely bad way. It's an absolutely wrong time. It's the absolutely wrong time to be bringing that kind of crap up again. Maybe, and I think a lot of us sort of feel like this today. Maybe if we had done a better job supporting Colin Kaepernick, maybe if we had just boycotted those advertisers, maybe if we had done that 4 years ago, George Floyd would still be alive today. Okay. I was going to apologize for all the politics stuff because usually it's just sports, but I thought it's important to actually throw this stuff in. Anyways, thanks so much for tuning in to the big Mighty Rip pod. Some shameless plugs. Check out mighty.vip for the latest merch. Some cool stuff on there, so you should absolutely check that out when you have a chance. Thanks for tuning in once again to the Mighty Rip Pod. For the Mighty Rip Pod, I'm so proud of Rocky the Wonder Pet. He made it through another podcast and you didn't even hear him bark. Anyways, for the Mighty Rip Pod, I am Dave DeBob, reminding you that sometimes players, coaches, and front office folks make horrifically bad decisions, Bill O'Brien. And it's our job as fans to set them straight.
Thanks so much for listening to the Mighty Rip podcast. Make sure to check out mighty.rip, where we are covering the latest from the world of sports. This month, we have in-depth coverage of the National Football League draft, Michael Jordan's return to TV, and the NBA's latest attempts to produce virtual sports.